I'm doing healing with my paintings with horses, and the horses communicate through that chakra. They give me the images of what they want me to deal with.
Okay, so
for example. So that's what 6 is.
That's a really interesting discussion since you mentioned horses. So the horses communicate with you about what they want you to paint for them, color-wise and chakra-wise?
No, they communicate for healing.
Okay.
And I use the chakra paintings, not only healing horses, but also people. Not only if I held one up here and the vibration is going to you.
Yeah.
But now the paintings are completely sentient.
Okay.
And they actually do a process where if I'm dealing with people and with horses, they enter into the body.
Okay, okay.
This is, of course, telepathically.
Okay.
So that painting will enter into you. I just did a healing today. The painting presented quite late last night. I want to work with you. Okay, so I sent my client a picture of the image, and ideally, you know, sit with it for a bit of time, meditate with it a little bit, whatever, just letting you know this is who's come forth. So it was a green chakra, so that's heart. And a lot of stuff that came up today was about that. So with the horses, a lot of what I'm dealing with the horses' problems, I'm not a vet, I'm not trying to be, I'm not even interested. I go, they show me if there's a behavioral problem, it's usually past life, it's a lot of abuse. And so I help them work through that and free them from that. And what we're seeing is that their behavioral issues diminish almost immediately.
Okay, so you're talking about the horses now. So they have some behavioral issues, they're picking up the energy from your painting, and then immediately...
And from me.
And from you.
What I'm doing to them energetically.
Oh, okay.
And then ideally, if that's their main painting, and they say to me, I have a broken heart, I want the green chakra. Like they tell me all this stuff.
Okay, okay.
So ideally, a few horses of one of the places that I've gone to, and I love the horses a lot, they've told me, and so we've hung them in their stalls. And it's been extremely beneficial to the horse because
behaviorally they calm down,
and health-wise.
And health-wise.
Because now these horses are very, very spoiled and lucky. They go out every day, no matter the weather. But so they're still in their stall, let's say 10 hours.
Okay.
Let's say fairly, maybe more, maybe less.
Okay.
But all the time they're just standing in that stall, they are being healed by the painting, the energetics of that painting coming down onto them.
Okay.
So ideally, every horse I'd ever met in my whole life would have one of those in their stall, because really, truly, it's not that fun a time, I wouldn't think, stuck in a stall if I were a horse, right?
Have you ever physically witnessed like immediate reaction from that animal? Or are they shaking their head, or are they...
Oh yeah, no. The few times I've done it, the horses are crazy for the energy. It's
so
incredible.
They kind of go wild?
Oh, they come right to it. They're sniffing it, snuffling it, licking it, rolling their face, trying to eat it. They want the energy. And interestingly enough, for humans it's the same, but most people have their stories that interfere.
Sure.
So this can't be happening, or I don't believe it's a painting, or I can't be feeling that, or I have one friend that came to the studio, and it was the most bizarre thing I'd ever seen. And he looked a bit like a king cobra. His body started to do this. And to a degree that I was mesmerized, because it kind of looked like his feet were nailed to the ground. He was leaning forward and back to such a degree, I thought, why isn't he falling over? And I said, what are you doing? He said, I'm not doing anything. I said, well, obviously you're doing something, because I've never seen, and he's a total dowsing rod for energy of the paintings.
And then what happened?
And particularly for the orange painting. Oh. He hadn't even gotten near that one. My God, I hate to think.
Okay.
This was just around the smaller round chakras.
Okay.
It was extraordinary.
And then, for example, would the horse perform better if it's a racehorse, for example?
You would hope.
Okay.
Now, 2 examples that I'll just give you quickly. One was starving himself to death last winter. He's a jumper. He's you know, he's a beautiful horse, he's a smart horse, highly sensitive horse. And his owner and he are very connected.
Okay.
And the owner had to go away for business for a month, and plus, for the winter months where he lives, he doesn't have an indoor arena, so he has to move just around a corner to another farm with an indoor arena so he can train all winter. And this horse is, as I stated, very sensitive, and apparently that was a much bigger stable, a lot more action.
Okay.
And this horse stopped eating. So his owner came home a month later, he lost 400 pounds.
Wow.
The horse was a mess. And they panicked, they had in all these vets, all these people, they didn't know what to do. They finally decided to bring him back to his little barn that he was happy in. And still he was eating, but not great. And I came up around then and I met all the horses I like to go, and I said, you know, introduce me to him. And he was out in the field, so I went and how do you do, and big horse. He's about 17 and a half hands, he's huge. And so I just, how do you do, met him. And I left that day, and as soon as I got home, that horse started to communicate telepathically, saying, you've got to come back, you've got to help me, this is past life, you've got to help me. Okay, so back I went on the weekend, and he showed me. He showed me the picture. He said I was a war horse. And he said he specifically brought up World War I. And he said the blood, the noise, the guts, the screaming, the trauma. And he said, I got reactivated in that barn. Too much action, too much noise, and PTSD. And he literally went back to that World War I scene where his owner was killed. He showed me all of this. Wow. And so I have some energetic techniques that I did with him to help clear that lifetime and to restore that parallel life so that he would be free of that trauma. And as soon as I drove out of the driveway, he started to eat. And that was it. He didn't look back. He's been chowing down.
So that was just physical, something energetically, is it like a Reiki?
No, I'm not touching anybody.
Okay.
This is all telepathic energy flow.
You didn't even make this particular horse a painting, did you?
No, but he told me on day one he needed the orange painting. That was emotions.
Oh, okay.
And I knew that. And interestingly enough, I didn't, you know, long and short is, I went out a couple of weeks ago to do a photo shoot with an equine photographer who has spent a lot of time in that barn and knew all the horses as well, so they knew her. Mm-hmm. And we were out in the field, let's just see how it goes, very organic. And I brought out the orange painting, and that horse went crazy for it. And so did one of the other horses who had told me before he's a very social horse. He's kind of the clown. He would escape every night and go and visit his pals in their stalls. Mm-hmm. And they could see that from where he, you know, from his horse poo everywhere. Yeah. He'd stopped here, he stopped to see you, and he stopped to see me. And he's a very funny horse. And he said to me, I'd like Gregorian chant at night. Could you arrange that for us in the barn? I mean, he really was quite comical. And he told me he liked the throat chakra. Okay. And when we were in the field, I had, you know, they're 20-inch circles. I had the orange one facing and the turquoise one facing me. I just held it like that. And the one, Rossi, who wanted the turquoise one before, no, he wanted the orange one too. They both wanted that orange painting. And they were like little dogs on a string. They would have done anything. One on either side, these huge beings with their heads over my shoulders, like, let us at it, we want it. They were both trying to eat it and lick it and kiss it, and they literally were following me around the field. It was a riot. And when I turned and showed him the turquoise one, he didn't want it. And what had happened is one of his pals had died a couple of months before, his very close pal, and he was still grieving. And he didn't want the turquoise. He didn't want fun. He needed his emotions attended to. So that was really a strong. That was very strong to see that. I wasn't expecting him to react like that. And at the same time, there was another horse who was being slated to be put down in a few weeks for very bad arthritis, and which I didn't see any sign of. I couldn't even understand what they were talking about because the horse was fine. Okay. And everybody said, oh no, his arthritis is terrible. It's time for him to go down. The winter will be hard, all this stuff. And the horse was telling me, how dare she do this to me? The horse gave me this whole download in August, and I was really surprised. I mean, I didn't know the owner. I just go there and I work with the horses, whether I know the owner or not. As in this case, I had never met her. And he was very upset. And I was kind of a bit surprised. I didn't know what was going on. And so then moving right on until end of October, and there we were. And she had slated to have him put down. And I talked to the owner of the premises. I said, you can't. He's telling me he's fine. And long and short is she gave him a reprieve. And so that day there he was, because she had some other, she's a vet, and she had some other vets come, and the vet said there's nothing wrong with this horse.
Oh, wow.
No arthritis. And I said, well, I have been working with him for 6 or 7 months. He's fine. And so I took the green heart paint, because he said to me he was shattered. He had a totally broken heart that she would even do this to him. They'd been together so long. And really interesting for me to see was in holding the green painting, the horse, it was way too strong for him in his condition. And he literally somehow was just 30 feet back. It was, I don't even know what he did. He didn't step back, he just kind of somehow jumped back.
Okay.
And I was so surprised because the painting's only 20 inches.
Okay.
And this great big animal, right? And he had to think about it. And I just stayed there kneeling, holding the painting. And eventually he came up in his own time and then smelt it and licked it and then got into the groove of that painting. But that was also a really big lesson.
Does this only work? I know people watching this are going to be curious if it can work on their pets. Does this only work with horses?
Oh, I'm sure it works on anything and everything. It's energetics.
It's
this is what I do with people.
Right.
But if I was healing you and you had a condition and I would specify to the energy coming in that it come at a pace that you can tolerate.
Okay.
As gently as you can absorb. I didn't think about it with the horses because so far it had all been this really positive reaction. I mean, the first horse I started with there, she was an ex-race horse. And I didn't know anything about her. I just went into the field and I'm brokenhearted, I'm bored, I miss the paparazzi, I'm lonely. And I'm like, who is this horse? I don't know a thing about you. And she said, I need the green horse, I need the green chakra. I said, okay, and I brought them all, so we had that put in her stall. She is 100% different horse now. Wow. To the degree when I was there in August one day, I didn't recognize her in the paddock. There were a couple others with her, and I mistakenly thought it was one of the other mares. So she changed so much. She'd filled out, she was running around, she's meant to be lame. She wasn't lame. It was extraordinary.